And I say that, and that's something that Nazi Germany would have done and did do. I think it's a disgrace. That information that was false and fake and never happened got released to the public. As far as BuzzFeed, which is a failing pile of garbage, writing it, I think they're going to suffer the consequences. They already are. And as far as CNN going out of their way to build it up, and by the way, we just found out, I was coming down, Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen is a very talented lawyer. He's a good lawyer in my firm. It was just reported that it wasn't this Michael Cohen they were talking about. So all night long, it's Michael Cohen. I said, I want to see your passport. He brings his passport to my office. I say, hey, wait a minute. He didn't leave the country. He wasn't out of the country. They had Michael Cohen of the Trump Organization was in Prague. It turned out to be a different Michael Cohen. It's a disgrace what took place. It's a disgrace. And I think they ought to apologize to start with Michael Cohen.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? No, Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are attacking our news organization.
Your organization.
Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically?
She's asking a question. Don't
Mr.
be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
I think it's important to distinguish between the kind of equality that you're talking about, which is you're basically saying that women shouldn't have, money to provide for their children. Men shouldn't have to pay money to provide for their children. When men actually petition for for custody of their children, they're very likely to get it.
What?
That's actually not true.
That actually is.
That is total bull.
When men actually request custody of their children, they almost always get at least joint custody.
Men always lose custody battles.
There's a difference between they get it and they almost always get joint custody. I mean, there's a very big difference.
There's a massive bias against men on custody battles.
It's not just a second. To see you survive off of welfare payments. It's not like women are living high on the hog with their, $300 a month to care for their children.
It's not $300 a month. Welfare with food stamps and more than 3 kids is more like $1,200 a month.
Okay, so Jill, let me ask you this. Is sexism dead?
No, sexism is not dead. Sexism is alive and well. If you look at the statistics, even among American women, which I know one of Gavin's talking points is that, if you want to find sexism, you have to go abroad, and American women are just fine. American women do make less money. Yes, the gender gap has been pretty much, not entirely erased, but it's been very much condensed among young single women without children. But as soon as
they make more money, young single women without children. That's more money than men.
That's what she's saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying they make more money.
How do you argue with someone who just keeps making up figures?
I'm not making up figures.
Single women without kids make more money than men.
Figures? Like, which figure do we trust? Because the president has been talking about 77 cents, that women make 77 cents on the dollar for every man. What are the figures?
And what is debunked a lot of that?
Can we actually
it's not just maternity. It's also men are more willing to do things like ask for a raise. And men are more willing to work in more difficult jobs that pay them a greater salary. It's not as cut and dried as, and by the way, Gavin brought up a really good point. If employers thought they could get away with paying people 77 cents on the dollar, all major companies would only hire women.
They do it with illegal aliens already.
I didn't. So you have this flash of self-awareness at the end of the piece, which I just loved. You said this. You did. This was the bright part of the piece. I thought at a certain point, spending hundreds of words close reading a Christmas song starts to feel a little silly.
Oh, of course.
What's the point of yelling at people on the internet about this? Do you wish you'd stop there?
No.
No.
Well, so it is a Vox explainer, right? Because this is a debate on the internet, and people have been hearing about it and reading about it.
Right.
And the reason I wrote the piece is that people might be curious why this is a debate. So the issue is that it's a debate over whether the song promotes, problematic ideas of consent, right?
Don't you think that's a debate that's completely confined to small groups of silly rich people?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay. So here's my question. I mean, I want to take this seriously, and I feel there are threats to women's, as you put, agency and rights, and one of them is female genital mutilation, which is really common in the United States among immigrants and refugees.
Yeah.
Really common.
Yeah, but
hundreds of
that's
thousands of people at risk for that. I never hear
Sure.
feminists mention it at all.
I hear feminists mention it a lot.
You do? Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen a
Yeah,
Fox
but also
piece
like
on it.
that is a just totally, you know, that is a distraction from the issue. Like, just because there are worse things, we can't care about.
But that's
rape.
like the worst thing I can imagine.
I don't know,
This is
do
a
you-
Christmas song that's like, yeah, okay, maybe it was written 70 years ago.
But your attention is the reason that these people have come and thrown walks at the windows and shit. You know, it's not the poignant points that you have to say. It's the
no, because I'm right about everything. They don't have it. Of course, they can't argue with me about that because I'm right about everything.
Protesters just think you're an asshole and don't want you here, so we come and break some windows.
Oh, we is you. Oh, you. So we come and break windows. Did you break windows?
I didn't break windows. I wanted to get a
Were
ticket.
you happy that the windows were broken?
I was happy.
You were happy that the windows were broken?
Yes.
Are you a student here?
I don't think we should be.
Are you a
speaking on-
student here?
Are
you a student at the university?
I am a
You're a student at the university, and you were happy that your
Yes,
fellow
I found it
students'
amusing.
tuition fees
A
were
free speech? You want me to
being spent on? Oh, good heavens!
Friends of Kaepernick. He's a friend of Kaepernick.
This is what you're up against. And one of the things I was going to speak about last night is this sort of weird
We
language.
just don't
that
want
the
you here.
progressive
We don't want to
left-
hear what you have to say. All right, so tell me something poignant then. Tell me something other than...
As I think you can see, you're in the minority. Plenty of people do want me here. You are outnumbered. So
I see maybe...
Subsidies. Okay, so I'm 5 generations. Social Security? Okay? So I'm 5 generations in the mass immigration that took place in this country. I mean, if you look at the curve, Sally, if you look at the curve of how many immigrants came into the country, most of Americans, there's a big bubble that happens at the beginning of the 20th century. There's a huge amount of immigration in the 1920s that is massively curved. That curve lasts all the way until 1965. In 65, there's a brand new bill, and that bill says that we're not going to choose basically which countries people come from anymore. And it does matter where people come from in terms of the cultures they're going to tend to hold.
Whoa, but I thought you said, wait, did everybody hear that? It's not about the particular immigrants, or it's just about the economic policy of them taking benefit. You just said you like certain immigrants more than other immigrants because of the culture they bring to this country.
Okay, so let me explain. Right. So here's the deal. In the presence of a welfare state, which exists in 65, you have to pick and choose which immigrants you bring in. You do. I mean, otherwise everybody just comes in.
I agree.
Okay, if you agree, then what is your standard for bringing in immigrants? Clearly, it's not taking federal benefits or state benefits. Clearly, it's not driving with our culture. You don't want any restrictions on immigrants. Should we get 6 billion people coming over here? Where do you draw the line?
Okay, well, I do want restrictions on immigrants. I want to, but I want to have a line and a process and a system.
Can you explain?
Wait.
Explain what?
You just
I'll tell you where I'll draw the line.
Explain why you're drawing the line around culture, please.
Because culture makes a difference to a country.
So tell me, who are the American enough cultures to come in?
Anybody, any individual, any culture, and devotees of any culture who believe in individual freedom, who believe that they actually have to take it, that they have to believe in the notion of private property and constitutional limited government. That's what the God the two countries about.
Who the fuck have you ever met in this entire new, beautiful world who does not believe in individual liberty?
Are you kidding me? This is legitimately fully delusional. 99%. By Gallup polls, 99%. I can't say polls. By Gallup polls, 99% of the population of Afghanistan believes in the implementation of Sharia law. That's not an individual freedom.
Don't do that. But what if that checked you on that and said you are missing? Oh no, guys, this is I know we have a fact-free election. I understand, but you can't repeat lies enough and hope they become facts. It's not true. You're misrepresenting Sharia law, and you are using Sharia law to suggest that everyone who believes in Sharia law believes in extremism. Gallup, the same organization, the same. Guys, don't get out in the world.
Sally,
Gallup said 7% of actual. Whatever. Go ahead.
I recommend that if you believe that, you try to go to a Sharia law believing Muslim and ask them to cater your lesbian wedding.
I have.